Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you over the digital airwaves of YouTube at least 3 times a week. Once again, as always, I'd like to pause and take a moment to thank my subscribers and followers. Obviously, the millions of downloads we received courtesy of iHeartRadio over the last few months. And on YouTube, we've now eclipsed, in terms of our subscribers, over 1.23 million. So I can't thank y'all for the love and support enough. Keep it coming, and I'm going to keep on coming. To continue to like and follow the show, just click the bell to get notified for all of our newest content, and you too shall be the latest member of the Stephen A. Smith Show family. And while you're doing so, make sure to grab a copy of my New York Times best-selling book, Straight Shooter, a memoir of second chances and first takes, now in paperback. Just go to straightshooterbook.com to get yourself a copy. That's straightshooterbook.com to get yourself a copy. So got a lot of stuff to get into today. Obviously, the NBA playoffs. There's some stuff on Diddy and 50 Cent and Donald Trump. What the hell do those three names have in common? I'll definitely touch on that. Of course, Mark Kriegel has written an outstanding book on Mike Tyson, things that you didn't know, things that you haven't heard before. We'll have him on to discuss those things. But the first order of business is the NBA playoffs, and that's where we're getting started, where the finals are now set between the Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder. The Pacers made the finals by putting away the New York Knicks in Game 6 Saturday night, 125-108. The Pacers were ultimately the better team, and now they head to the finals Thursday night to face the league MVP and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Can't say enough. Listen, I thought the Knicks were going to win this series in 7 games. I really, really did. But when they blew it in Game 1, I didn't know how they could recover from that, and sure enough, they didn't. That's one element to peel from it. Another element to peel from it is that the Pacers were deeper, and they were exceptionally well coached. And even though we respect Tom Thibodeau and what have you, the bottom line is that he's not Rick Carlisle. And then when you couple that with the fact that you got to look at the future in terms of the New York Knicks giving up 5 picks, four unprotected first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, and you saw his level of production or lack thereof at times, it doesn't look too pretty for the New York Knicks. They were there. They were in the conference finals. They were 2 games away from an NBA Finals berth, but they didn't get it done. And to be honest with you, I'm going to say something that's not going to be that popular. From a purely basketball standpoint, this is a better final series than the Knicks would have given Oklahoma City Thunder. Because I think if the New York Knicks had gone against Oklahoma City Thunder, they would have gotten blown out of the building. They would have gotten swept because they just weren't deep enough. And against Oklahoma City, you got to be deep enough. Rick Carlisle has played 11 players at least 15 minutes a game during the regular season. So it's a better matchup for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and it's a better basketball matchup for us all to watch during the NBA Finals. That's my opinion, okay? That's where I stand with it. But you probably prefer to hear from somebody else. And joining me now to break down the Eastern Conference Finals and look ahead to the NBA Finals is an NBA champion himself. Big Perk, as we affectionately call him. Kendrick Perkins won it all with the Celtics in 2008. And he joins me now, my partner in crime on NBA Countdown and Beyond. What's up, big boy? How you doing, man? How's everything?
That's like two things. Are those veins popping out of your arms? Are those veins I see pop? Hello, bro. Hello, bro. What you got going on?
No, I'm just.
What you got going on? I see
I'm
a different glow in you right now, man. You know what I mean? I'm seeing something, different right now. You know what I mean? What you got going on over there?
You just teasing me, man. You just teasing me. You just teased
No,
me
I'm
because you know how
serious.
desperate
I'm serious.
I was to get home. Because I was desperate to get home. I was in Oklahoma City and Minneapolis. I was sitting there praying we didn't have to go back to Minneapolis for Game 6. You know that. You know that. But, Perk, let me ask you this question, man. Let's get right to it. You got to give us an explanation. You swore up and down there was no way in hell the Indiana Pacers would win this series and get into the NBA Finals, yet lo and behold, they are here. What the hell happened to the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, man?
Well, let me say this. I was wrong. I was wrong about this series, and I got to give credit to the Indiana Pacers. I will say that. But the Knicks, how dare you? How dare you? You're in the Eastern Conference Finals. You just knocked out the defending champs. How dare you let your foot off the gas in Game 1? That's what I keep thinking about when I go back to this series. I keep thinking about that meltdown in Game 1 and how that ultimately cost the New York Knicks the series. And then all of a sudden, things start down spiraling from there. They've been playing catch up ever since, and they never bounced back. Here's the thing, SA. One, unless Giannis calls and says he wants to go to New York, I think the Knicks should run it back. Obviously, you get better with your bench, but I'm talking about your starting five and Josh Hart. You run it back, right? But you hold guys accountable. And I'm looking at Karl Anthony Towns. That's what I'm circling. Hear me out. Soon as the game was over, I went to the internet and everybody like, oh, first priority for the Knicks is trade Karl Anthony Towns. I'm like, no, the hell it's not. You're talking about a guy who gave you 23 to 24 points and almost 12 rebounds in this series, I believe it was. Right? Here's the thing with Karl Anthony Towns. Worldwide West and Leon Rose, Karl Anthony Towns, they go all the way back to his Kentucky days. Right? That's a little bit over a decade ago. You should be able to hold him accountable. The problem with Karl Anthony Towns is strict and conditioning. He has to lose 15 to 20 pounds. He has to be able to get up the floor better. He has to be able to work on his lateral movement. Don't come telling me that he can't get better in his 8th or 9th season and say, I don't want to hear that. You know why? Because I watched Steph Curry get better late in his career when he won his 4th championship. You remember when people was picking on Steph Curry essay defensively?
Yep.
It stopped against the Boston Celtics. You remember how he started guarding? They were trying to search him out. We saw him battling on the low block with Al Horford and Jaylen Brown and was trying to fall. He wasn't budging. That's what needs to happen with Karl Anthony Towns. I'm gonna say this. If I'm Karl Anthony Towns, I embrace all the criticism this summer. I use all the criticism. Matter of fact, I have every single clip on my phone that is criticizing me being a defensive liability, out of shape, whatever you want to call it. I'm using that as motivation, and I come back in better shape next year. I come back leaner, and I come back more focused.
Is that your way of saying if the New York Knicks, for some reason, had an opportunity to get Giannis Antetokounmpo, they shouldn't move Karl Anthony Towns? Is that what your way of saying that?
I said, unless he called. I wouldn't be reaching out if I'm the New York Knicks. I wouldn't do that.
Why not?
Because, man, we already know, whether you and I agree with it or not, Karl Anthony Towns is the emotional guy, right? Karl Anthony Towns is the emotional guy. If he found out that Worldwide West and Leon Rose were reaching out to try to trade him, because you're going to have to trade him if you want Giannis. Right, you're gonna have to package him up with some pieces and a third team involved, whatever it is, to send some draft picks there. If you want Giannis, you want them to contact you. You want Giannis to want to come to the Knicks before you even start entertaining that conversation. If not, guess what? And say you run it back. 2 things for sure. We know the Boston Celtics. They're most likely not going to be there next year. Now, they're going to make some moves, but without Jason Tatum, they're not going to be title contenders. You know, the Milwaukee Bucks eliminating themselves. Dame Dollar's probably going to miss the entire season. So you're still just looking at the Pacers, right? And maybe the Cavs who are going to bounce back. Other than that, the Knicks have no. I mean, who else are they worried about in the Eastern Conference? I know Detroit and Orlando.
How about Detroit? How about Detroit? How about Detroit, who didn't have Isaiah Stewart, who didn't have Ivy available to them, and who has the rest of their team? What about them? I'm not underestimating the Detroit Pistons.
No, I'm not either. But I'm saying if the Knicks, which I believe they will do, go out and improve their depth and get better on the perimeter, right, from the bench, I think they'll be just fine. They know what they have to do this offseason to upgrade their roster.
What about your concerns about Karl Anthony Towns and how gimpy he looked throughout these playoffs? His legs, it looked shaky, man. I'm just telling you right now, I don't know if I could depend on him in the next 3 to 5 years because of that. I'm talking about his legs. How size 21 feet, questionable knees. That stuff has been pervasive in his life for years, man.
It has, S.A., but that's why you get your big ass in shape. Let me give you an example. When I first got traded to Oklahoma City, right? The first year I was there, I was coming off a torn ACL and I strained my meniscus, okay? And we ended up going, I believe it was to the Western Conference Finals. And we got knocked off by the Dallas Mavericks, I believe it was. Or in the second round. I can't really hit it on the head right now, but it was either or, right? All right, cool. We get knocked off. That summer, I went in the lab. Now, mind you, I was in my 8th or 9th season as well. And I'm not comparing myself to Karl Anthony Towns. I'm telling you the amount of work that you need to put in to get to the level.
Okay.
The Thunder sent the trainer home with me, who was with me the entire summer. His name was Chris. They sent them down. They made me get on the diet. I had a book this thick of things that I had to do and follow throughout the course of the day. I entered the season with 288 pounds. I came back into camp at 253 with 9% body fat because I knew I had to get in shape, one, for my knees, but in order to be able to get up and down with Russell Westbrook, KD, and James Harden. That's all you got to do. Hold them accountable.
Mikal Bridges, 5 first-round picks, 4 unprotected. How are you feeling about him right now?
I got mixed feelings, I say, about Mikal Bridges. It was
time
because it was times where I was like, oh, that's the Mikal Bridges I know right there. Right. And I don't want to just he didn't have a great series, or like he had an average series in the Eastern Conference Finals. But remember how great he was in that Boston series. The dude was balling, right? In certain, especially in the 4 quarters on the road. So this is what I say about Mikal Bridges. I think you have to address Jalen Brunson before you can start addressing a Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby and their lack of consistency offensively throughout the Eastern Conference Finals. Jalen Brunson got to get off the ball, man. Like, he got to get off the ball and say he can't continue to start the game dribbling the oxygen out of the ball. He's starting to become a Luka Doncic. And I say that respectfully because both of those guys are hell of players. And you know I'm a fan of big body Brunson. But what I'm watching is I'm watching him walk the ball up the floor. I'm watching the Knicks start their offense with damn near 15 on the clock. They're always borderline getting 8 seconds called. And I'm watching Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby find their offense once Jalen Brunson goes to the bench. That can't happen, man.
Perk, I got more to ask you, but I got to get out of here to pay some bills in a second. I'll be right back with you. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show with Kendrick Perkins in a minute. Joining me now to talk about his picks for the upcoming UFC 316 event on Saturday, June 7th, is Prize Pick partner Kyle Forjard. What's up, Kyle? How you doing, man? How's everything?
What's up, Stephen A? How we doing? You good?
I want to make sure I pronounce it. Did I pronounce your last name right? Forjard? Is that the right pronunciation?
My hockey coaches and stuff, everyone butchers it since day one. So Forjard.
I got you. Forjard. I got it, man. I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. I see you went more on Sean O'Malley, less on Patchy Mix, and less on Kayla Harrison. Why do you think Sean O'Malley's going to have more than 72.5 significant strikes, and Patchy Mix is going to have less than 57.5 significant strikes?
You know, I think everyone thinks that Suga has to knock out Merab early for him to win, but I don't know if I see that happening. I think it's going to be a war at the end of the day, and so I see that fight lasting a long time. I don't think it's going to be a second round knockout. I'd be happy if it was because I want Suga to win, but I just don't see it playing out like that. And then those other 2 fights, the Patchy one, that's going to be a brawl. So I think it's going to end quick. And then same with the Kayla Harrison one. I think that's going to be a quick one. So that's why I went less on those 2 and then more on Suga. Pretty simple. We got our boy OG at our Full Send MMA camp too. He's really good with picks. So we usually hit these pretty often.
Why do you also have a community play? You also have a community play, right? What's going on with that? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so that's on the app. So basically, you know, I can't even watch UFC without playing Prize Picks. You know, it just makes watching the fights so much more fun. So we like to do a pick, and then we put it on the Prize Picks app. It's right on the homepage. So all our fans can just like click it, ride with us, and then we're all watching the fight, and we're all rooting, hoping that it hits together. It's so fun. I love it.
Now, the main event is a highly anticipated rematch for Prize Picks partner Sugar Sean O'Malley, who's looking to reclaim the bantamweight title. What are your thoughts on that rematch?
You know, obviously we saw it's crazy because Merab was an underdog in the first fight, right? Like everyone thought Sugar was just going to clean him out, and I think after that performance, and then obviously the last fight, his performance against Umar was just out of this world. I mean, everyone was blown away. I actually rewatched it last night, and it was just insane. So now it's crazy how it's completely flipped. Everyone's counting Suge out once again, which was kind of in the same position he was when he was fighting Aljo. We were at that fight too, and nobody thought he had a chance, and he shocked the world. So I think Sugar's good in these situations. I think mentally, when he's being counted out and he's the underdog, I think that's when he shows up and performs his best.
Yeah, I think the only issue I have with Sugar Sean is that it's like you have to bring the action to him because he's ready to counter. When he has to chase you, when you're moving, particularly when you're ready to wrestle because you're not standing up there trying to fight him, it's a tough thing for him. It's almost as if he gets bored. That's what I'm worried about. I don't think that'll happen, but I can't underestimate the possibility. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, if you rewatch that fight, rewatch it and watch the 5th round. Sugar threw 2 leg kicks. I think he hit him like right in the liver, and Merab was hurt. And that was after getting beat up for 4 rounds. So listen, Sugar's a sniper. I was actually there training with him the other day. We had him on the podcast. He's in incredible shape. He's dialed. He's made a lot of changes in his life. And I think he's going to shock the world once again. But that's what makes this sport the best is you just never know. You just don't know what's going to happen.
Prize Picks partner extraordinaire, Kyle Forjard, right here with the Stephen A. Smith Show. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks so much, man. Take it easy.
You're going to be riding? You riding with us or what?
I'm riding with you. I ain't going against anything you say. I mean, every time I ride with you, I win. So that's how I'm pulling this off. That's what I'm doing.
That's how we do it.
All right. Appreciate you, man.
Buddy.
Thanks a lot.
We'll
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Let me transition because the New York Knicks are done and they got a lot of work in the offseason. We got plenty of time to talk about them. Your thoughts about the Indiana Pacers and their chances of winning a championship because they're going up against the Oklahoma City Thunder?
They better get game one. You remember when we was on Countdown and I said the Denver Nuggets, I said the Minnesota Timberwolves, it was a must win for them in game one. Well, they better get game one. Yep. I know if they even think they have a chance in this series. You know why? Because game ones are a fill-out game, right? So the Thunder, they haven't played a team like the Pacers, a team that like to get up and down, a team that spreads the floor. A lot of their guys, majority of their team could shoot the three-point shot at a high clip. They haven't. So now all of a sudden, Dagnall, he has to go in his bag a little bit. I'm interested to see what type of lineup he's going to throw out there, who he's going to put on Pascal Siakam. But game one is the most important game of the series for the Pacers. If they don't get game one, they're going to lose this series in 5. Because by game 2, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to figure you out. And once they figure you out, it's a problem defensively. So you're going into game 1 in the fill-out game. You really got to have. You got to have to really stretch that to going into the second half of game 1. You need to be up by like 15, 16 points on the score. Other than that, your ass is grass.
How elite is this Oklahoma City Thunder defense compared to defenses that we have seen throughout NBA history? And what makes them so good defensively?
You saw it, S.A. You saw it up close in person.
I saw it.
It's one of the best defensive teams that we've seen in the history of the game. And people keep asking me, who will win, this 2025 or this 2012 team? And I keep saying, I believe it will go 7 games, but I would give the nod to the 2025 team because of their depth. I don't know if I've ever seen a team this deep, especially at the perimeter position, that have a bunch of dogs and could defend. Yes, we know about Luke Dortz. I saw you earlier today make some great points about Alex Caruso and Casey Wallace coming in off the bench. But we gotta remember, hell, SGA and J-Dub, them brothers not no scrubs defensive. Like, they defend at a high level. Right. So when I'm watching them and I think about my 08 team with the Boston Celtics, who was also considered one of the best defensive teams to ever, step foot on the floor, I'm like, bro, these dudes are just different. They're different, man.
And I'm looking at them right now, and it's scary because I look at Lou Dort, man. This brother's a linebacker playing basketball. He's a linebacker playing basketball. I saw Julius Randle, and this brother didn't put a forearm out there. He just used his chest, and Randle couldn't move him. Randle 6'8". Randle powerful and couldn't move this brother. And I'm thinking about Halliburton and all of this noise about Halliburton. The brother can play. He's not overrated. I don't know who these players were that labeled him overrated. He's not overrated. The brother can play. Make no mistake about it. But this is a different beast. This is a different animal. This is a different challenge that's coming his way. And I ain't going to lie to you. I don't know how equipped Halliburton is to handle this, to be quite honest with you. It's going to be interesting to see.
You saw those 18 points per game throughout these playoffs?
Yep.
That ain't going to cut it. That's not going to cut it against the Oklahoma City Thunder. 18 points a game going to get you swept. He's going to have to elevate his game even more and say he's going to have to be consistently, if they have a shot, 25 to 30 points a night. And I don't see it. You know what he averaged in his 2 games against the Thunder this year? In a regular season?
What?
He averaged 11 points, bro.
Ooh.
Bro, he averaged 11 points against OKC. Against OKC. Now, again, you know, I'm waiting on him. He didn't have his special moments. We just saw him take over 4 quarters, but you're dealing with a different beast. Here's the one thing that I'm looking at closely. Who is going to guard Pascal Siakam? Because if you talk about putting Luke Dortz on Tyrese Halliburton to start, is Chet Holmgren going to be the one on Pascal Siakam? Or if you're coach, do you start J-Dub on Pascal Siakam? Do you switch up your starting lineup if you coach Daniel and you go small with Chet at the 5 and you bring in Alex Caruso early and now you have your defense set? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see.
I'm interested in seeing it as well. I'm praying that we're going to have an interesting series. I mean, if we got to go to cities like Indiana and OKC, damn it, at least make it a great series. You know what I'm saying? Go 6, 7 games. That's what I'm looking at. I know you don't feel that way because, damn it, you loved in Oklahoma City. You should be the mayor. They should give you the key to the city. They gave you a standing ovation. I was standing right next to you, big bro. They gave you a standing ovation in OKC. I got to admit, I was right because I was getting ready to walk to the back with you. I said, let's go. You like, stay with me, bro. And I didn't know what the hell was going on. And the next thing I know, they got you up on a big screen and the crowd is giving you a standing ovation. How was that, man? How'd that make you feel, bro?
Well, one, I'm thankful that you shared that moment with me. That's number one. Number two, man, it's all love there, man. It been that way. And SA, I had some great years there, right? It was 4.5 years, but the things I was, see, a lot of people don't realize the things and how invested I was in the community, right? Like, with the tornadoes, with Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays. Like my wife and I, we done a lot in the community and we developed relationships there, man, where I never bought a house in Boston. I never bought a house in Cleveland or New Orleans, but I did own a house in Oklahoma City. And it took me, seriously, it took me 6 years after I left OKC, 6 years after I left OKC to finally sell my house. Because I was actually thinking about going back there. We was thinking about living there. That's how great people are. That's how much love they show.
Hold that thought, Perk. Give me just 1 minute. I got some bills to pay. You know how this goes. We'll be back with the one and only Kendrick Perkins in a minute. All right, everybody, listen up. With all the big-time sports action that's happening each and every day, the Stephen A. Smith Show wants to make sure you are taking advantage of it all. That's why we partnered with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching sports. The app is really easy to use. To make a lineup, all you have to do is pick more or less on a few player stats. Choose from any of your favorite players, Tyrese Halliburton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Pascal Siakam, all in the same entry. Then sit back and watch. The list is really endless. You can play Prize Picks in over 40 states, including California and Texas. Best of all, Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50. So just use promo code SAS and download Prize Picks now. Again, download the app and use code SAS to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Hey, run your game. You've often said that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should be looked at differently. And then last week you came out and you said this is the best play in the history of Oklahoma City. Kevin Durant's been there. Russell Westbrook has been there, along with various others, but especially those two names. You really, really mean that? I'm talking about, you said this before a championship has been captured. You saying it right now. You didn't say if they win a championship. You've already called Shea Gilgeous-Alexander the greatest player in the history of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Why?
Yeah. Well, number one, third straight season of averaging 30 plus, okay? Shooting over 50% of the field, which joined your GOAT and Michael Jordan, right? For us players with most 30 points shooting over 50%.
Right.
Like, because
The GOAT, yeah.
yeah. So
I
he's
said,
sitting at that table. Then he goes to win the MVP. Then he goes to win the MVP. I heard you on there too, by the way. I ain't getting into that with you, right? You know, he wins the MVP. All right. Now I say he wins the scoring title. Third straight year of first team all NBA. All right. Now takes the team to the NBA finals, conference MVP. And the way that he's doing it, man, the way that he's doing it, no one can say that this man has underachieved, right? And I'm just thinking about how he's embraced this culture. No one thought when they made the trade for Paul George that this team would be sitting here some 4 or 5 years later and we'd be talking about them making it to the NBA finals for Kawhi and PG. Hell, Kawhi and PG don't even play together no more. So just for him to embody this whole OKC culture, be like the face, man, listen, much love and respect to KD and much love and respect to Russ. What Russ done that was tremendous. 3 years averaging a triple-double MVP. KD,
right.
him being the MVP, multiple scoring titles, I get all that. But what SGA is doing right now, we're talking about history here, Stephen A. We're talking about he's sitting at the table. I saw Allen Iverson post something. It's him, Michael Jordan, and Allen Iverson sitting at another seat that we didn't think he was going to be sitting at. Damn it, he's sitting at that table now. And he haven't even completed the mission yet. So imagine when he complete the mission. And I think out of all, and you tell me if I'm wrong, he's going to be he's everybody else from Anthony Edwards, Luka, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Donovan Mitchell are going to be playing catch up to him. Because once he complete this mission, I believe they're going to win the championship. He's going to enter that room of superstars with LeBron, with KD, with Steph, with Jokic, with Giannis, because he's going to check all the boxes.
And the other thing, too, is that he thoroughly outplayed Anthony Edwards in the Western Conference Finals. There's no way. I mean, there was two superstars that were going up against one another. One departed, elevating his status. Another departed, lowering his status, even though I love me some Ant-Man, but you cannot show up in the game 5 and you're down 20 in the first quarter. You're down 30 at the half. You're getting blown out of the building in a closeout game. I know Oklahoma City's a better team, but you still expected more from Ant-Man than what you got. Let me throw this interesting question by you. 520, Jeff Teague, 520 podcast, said that Shea basically saved the NBA because he reminded everybody of the mid-range game instead of everybody just running out there dependent on threes. I thought he made a valid point in that regard. Your thoughts about that real quick?
I agree with him. He got us, he made us focus and brought us back to reality, right? Like just when people or the analytics thought the mid-range game was dead, it wasn't. And SGA reminded us of that. Because people could talk about he's the free throw merchant and all that stuff. I don't want to hear all that. Like Richard Jefferson put some stat up where Richard Jefferson down there was averaging more free throws than SGA out of like 2 or 3 seasons of his career right now.
That's
SGA
right.
only been up over 8. And he's getting to the mid range. And like we talked about, SA, he's legit 6'6". He's legit 6'6".
Yeah.
So that means he's Kobe, MJ height, right? And the separation, the degree of difficulty that he's getting on, because these ain't just wide open mid-range shots. These are contested turnarounds over both shoulders.
Yeah.
The wiggle, the flash,
Yep.
the up and under, the scoop layups, the finishing around the basket, right and left hand. He's scoop laying on the right side with the left hand, tough finishes. Like, this man is special. And he had reminded the world that don't fall in love with the tray ball. But CSA, let me say this to you real quick. Last year when the Celtics won it, bro, they didn't shoot the ball that well from the 3 in the NBA Finals. We forgot
That's
that
right.
Drew Holiday and those guys started cutting out of the corners because Dallas was trying to disrespect them for us knocking down threes. The Celtics was getting to the paint. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum was getting to their mid-range jump shots. But SGA just then took it to another level. And I think that's the separation between him and Anthony Edwards right now. Right? Like Anthony Edwards is either 3 or all the way to the basket. SGA got everything in between.
Everything in between. Not a 3-point yet, but God help us all if he perfects 3-point shooting and he gets significantly better at that. Lord help the world. Lord help the basketball world. 2 more questions before I let you get on out of here. One would be this, going back to KD. You know, we saw how the crowd just thundered, no pun intended, when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander won the league MVP. We also saw Russell Westbrook come back as a Denver Nuggets, get a standing ovation. We saw you and the love that you see as a commentator now, as a former player for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the love and affection. I know for a fact because I was in that city with you everywhere I went. I mean, the television stations, the streets, everybody, big perk, big perk. I mean, Jesus, it's ridiculous, okay? The love that you received. Kevin Durant is without question one of the greatest players who has ever lived. For obvious reasons, he didn't get that applause when he came back to OKC because he decided to depart after they were up 3-1, lost the series to Golden State, and then he took his talents to the Bay Area with Steph Curry and those boys less than a month after losing to them. But I'm looking at the love, and I'm like, damn, this is one of the greatest players to have ever lived. Brooklyn, OKC before that, obviously Golden State after OKC, and now he's in Phoenix. And one of the greatest players. I mean, if we don't give him any love, where the hell is he going to get it from? Have you thought about that at all? And have you questioned whether or not one day Kevin Durant will ever regret leaving OKC?
To be honest, I don't see how he left OKC, SA. Like, those fans haven't changed. They've been that way. They've been that way. I remember when I was playing, we used to go on TV and ESPN used to have like this meter where it was like, man, we can't even hear ourselves talk. They've been this way. So again, like KD decided to make the choice. The only thing that I wish KD would do is put his damn pride aside, which we know that's hard for him to do, and just make it right with their fan base and Sam Presti. Here's the question that I want to know. That I want to know. And I'm going to ask Sam Presti, especially if they win this championship. Like, have you even spoken to KD? Have you and KD even talked since he departed from Oklahoma City? Like, that's a real thing. I want to know. Because I know him and Russell Westbrook got a relationship. Every time I look up, Russell Westbrook now got a car dealership out there. He just built some type of park for the youth. He's building up another community of apartments for people on low income. Like, he's invested. He goes back there, right? They love
Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook, quiet as kept. Russell Westbrook does a lot of special things in the community in both OKC and Los Angeles that people don't know about. He just ain't about that. But Russell Westbrook is a good dude, bro. He could come across as abrasive and truculent all he wants to. He does a lot of great things in the community. He really does.
My thing is, you're right, S.A., but my thing with KD is, when it's all said and done, what's the place he's gonna call home? Like,
I don't know.
Everyone has their place. Like, I know Braun, he played with the Lakers and the Heat, but he's always gonna say Cleveland was his home. I just strongly believe that, right? Obviously, Steph, he just spun his whole damn career with Golden State. And I'm looking at Giannis. Even if Giannis does move on and he goes to another team this offseason, he's always going to be remembered as a Milwaukee Buck. Who is KD going to be remembered as? Just KD or who?
Yeah.
Like, what organization is attached to him?
None.
I'm
because he didn't show a willingness to want to be attached to them.
I'm wondering if Sam Presti is even going to retire his jersey.
Yeah, and I think he should, but I don't know if you can if the audience doesn't want it because the crowd may not want it and what have you. And to me, it's one of them situations where if OKC by some happenstance doesn't win the championship this year with all the assets that Sam Presti has available to him, Phoenix would jump at the opportunity to get assets from OKC in exchange for KD. But why would you bring him back to a city that, clearly he didn't want to stay in? And that's what everybody has told me. So I don't know. Very last question, because I got to get on out of here. Who do you have winning this series and in how many games?
I got OKC. I got OKC in 6. I'm gonna give the Pacers some respect that they could get 2 home games. Right? I'm gonna give them some respect to say that they can win 2 games at home. Let me say this to you, S.A., real quick. I haven't told nobody this, not you. Not even you. I want the world to know that me and the great Charles Barkley has no beef no more. We actually talk and conversate. Yep. So, because I'm sitting up here thinking, and how my wife could be, right? She be on my ass. If anybody, then she be on my ass about stuff. And she was like,
right.
You ever thought, what are you and Barkley taking shots at each other for? Why are y'all beefing? And I said, she said, it's just stupid. So I reached out to our legend, our colleague, our good brother, Michael Wilborn. I did. And I said, Hey, Wilborn, big bro, can you give Barkley my number and tell him to call me, man? I just think it's stupid. He put us in the group message and he wrote this whole paragraph and say, both of y'all are great friends of mine, 2 of my most favorite people on the planet Earth. I'm making this introduction and maybe we can sit down and break bread and go to dinner in Chicago. So I responded, appreciate it, big bro. Charles, what's up? Chuck, what's up, legend? Man, I would love to sit down with you and break bread. He responded, Big Perk, man, hey, listen, you're doing an outstanding job. We shouldn't be throwing shots at each other in the NBA Finals, man. Let's link up and break bread. So we squashed that beef, that little beef that we had. It wasn't nothing but some pork chops, but we squashed it. That's pork. That's pork, excuse me. It wasn't nothing but some hamburger meat, but we squashed it.
Now, if you remember, first of all, you did the wisest thing because that's why we call Wilbon the Godfather, because there's nobody better than bringing people together than Wilbon. If I ever run for office, he'll be my Secretary of State. That brother, that's just who he is. Right. Secondly, I told you, I've been telling you for the last couple of years, Barkley's a good dude, man. Barkley gonna say what he feels, but most of the times it's all in fun, and if he disagrees with something, I tell you, he calls me a fool at least once a month. They're like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? But we got nothing but love for him. And by the way, we're looking forward to the TNT crew coming to ESPN, man. But listen, I got to run on out of here, man. I got to run. I appreciate it, Big Perk. Thanks so much, man. I'll talk to you soon, all right?
I'll see you soon in OKC, then.
Yeah. I'll see you soon, but I'm not rushing it. I'm in a very friendly confine. I'll holler at you later, man. Thanks a lot. All right.
Right.
Now, speaking of that story that Big Perk just alluded to, I got to get to another story that made headlines throughout the season that came to an epic conclusion on Saturday night in Indianapolis, and that's the NBA basketball on TNT, inside the NBA on TNT. Ernie Johnson, Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq Diesel, along with the live event team, broadcast their final game Saturday on TNT. It was the end of a 35-year run of basketball on TNT. However, inside the NBA will carry on next season with ESPN. ESPN chairman Jimmy Pitaro came up with the idea to obtain the rights to Inside the NBA and put it on the air as is. So next season and going forward, Inside the NBA will continue to be produced by TNT Sports. And listen, I get the nostalgia, I get the affection that you have for TNT. Listen, they're an institution. We love Ernie Johnson. He's the institution, and the fellas are the fellas. But I was so happy Saturday night that they sounded off the way that they did, pay homage to all the people that they worked with, all the lives that they touched. It's been the best basketball show on television. There is no debate about that. These guys are phenomenal. All of them are friends of mine, so I couldn't be happier that they're coming over to ESPN. But it is important to note that they're coming over to ESPN. Just the channel. The same crew, the same production team, the same studio they do it from. The show is theirs. It's just going to air on ESPN instead of TNT. And so while everybody was quick to write the epitaph of the show, on TNT is the big deal for them because they had, in Ernie Johnson's case, a damn near 40-year relationship with them. I understand that. But please know that if you're the fan base, what you've been seeing from them is what you're going to get. ESPN ain't changing them. They can't change them. Same production team, same studio in Atlanta, same personnel, same producers. It's their show. That is what we are bringing to ESPN. It's just going to air on the channel. But what you've been seeing is what you're going to get, if not better. As Shaq said, and even Kenny Smith said, for the purposes of their last show, they cussed. They said, we ain't fucking around. We coming to do our thing. Yeah. And we can't wait. Honored to have them as colleagues at ESPN. Honored, but I've known them for many, many years. Myself, Big Perk, and everybody else included. Whenever they need us, we'll be there. When they don't need us, they don't need us. It's just that simple. We all got other jobs to do. Can't wait for them to air their show on ESPN. But what you've been seeing is what you're going to get. So don't think it's going to be any different. Coming up, should Donald Trump pardon Sean Diddy Combs if convicted? 50 Cent, of all people, says, hell no. I'll get into that ahead. But first, he's a producer and New York Times bestselling author with a new book, Baddest Man, The Making of Mike Tyson. I'm talking to the one and only Mark Kriegel. He's up next right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. My next guest is an Emmy award-winning television broadcaster and journalist and a New York Times best-selling author of sports biographies on Pete Maravich, Joe Namath, and Ray Boom Boom Mancini. He's out with a new book, Baddest Man, The Making of Mike Tyson. Please welcome my buddy. I haven't talked to him for a long time, but it's great to see him. The one and only Mark Kriegel is right here. What's up, Big Time? How are you, man? Long time. How you been?
I'm good. It's great to see you too, man. The hardest working man in the sports business.
Just on the grind, man. Let's get right to this because there's a lot that's going on. You were a young reporter at the New York Daily News in the 80s when you were swept up in the Mike Tyson hurricane, per se. How did y'all meet? Let's get that out the way. What was that like?
My first Tyson assignment was CD editor woke me up about 4 a.m, run up to Harlem, go to Dapper Dan's. I'm like, yo, what's Dapper Dan's? Like a club? No, it's a clothing store. Go, get up there. And as you said, I got caught up in that swirl. A couple weeks later, I get a call. He'd torn up the place in Bernardsville. He was living with Robin Givens. I write that. I covered his trial, covered his fights. I didn't become a columnist until 91. You remember when we met, we used to talk about basketball. You were covering high schools.
That's
and,
right.
And I was a city side reporter. I mean, we talked about like Fly Williams. I'd spent a lot of time in Brownsville as a police reporter. Anyway, I covered his stuff, but it wasn't until, and I'm ashamed to say this, 2012, and he had been the villain in my column for years, both at the Post and the News. Wasn't until 2012 that I actually looked on him as something different. I covered his one-man show in preview in Vegas, and it was not polished up yet. It was still raw. And I listened to it, and it was fully confessional and eviscerating. But I found myself like holding back tears. And this is a guy I just killed. I was having a bad day, like, well, I got Mike Tyson to bash. And we met
right
after the show, and I told him about, Mitch and running around with all the Robin craziness. And he says to me, how'd that make you feel? And he was, I think, newly sober and a vegan that time, or whatever. I said, what do you mean, how did it make me feel? What was that like? And he meant like chasing him around. Thought about it, and I thought about the adrenaline of it. And I told him it was a form of getting high. And he nodded at me, not disapprovingly, but just in sort of recognition. And to me, that was the day he became like fully human to me, not an abstraction, a real guy. And I did, the publisher broached this idea, would you do Tyson? Because I owed the publisher money on something else. And the publisher broached this idea, and I was like, hell no, I ain't doing Tyson. Because my feeling has always been, whether they cooperate with me or not, I don't care. But I have to love them. And I didn't love Mike Tyson. I kind of do now. but I didn't then. And I said, no, I ain't doing Mike Tyson. I had torn my hamstring. And
So what made you decide to do it? What made you decide to do it?
I thought about him. I torn my hamstring. I'm not in my right mind. I'm thinking about it. A friend of mine says, you can't give money back to the publisher. It's your duty as a writer. I started thinking about like who I was then, who I am now. And I thought about that day in Vegas and what the guy had survived. And how I wasn't necessarily wrong, but I was pretty pig-headed and vain about a lot of the stuff I wrote in the 90s, not proud of all of it. And I started thinking about what he had survived. Booze, drugs, Brownsville, that whole generation of like stick-up kids that were just blown off the face of the earth.
Got it.
Boxing itself, fame. He was famous in a kind of way that will kill you. That that killed Elvis. That probably killed Tupac. Yeah.
But Mark, let me go here.
Mm-hmm.
We thought we've heard everything about Mike Tyson. Like when you talk about drugs, fame, alcohol, women, whatever it is, we heard it all before in our eyes. What is it about Mike Tyson that we're going to learn in this book that we don't already know, considering the fact that he was an open book? He was on Front Street in terms of the fame. We saw him doing his like you said, in Vegas, Broadway, and other places. Spike Lee was producing these one-man shows. We seem to have known everything about him. What is it that we're going to learn? Give us a nugget of what we're going to learn in this book that we haven't already heard about Mike Tyson.
I think to be human. Like, there's an incredible loss there that I don't think he can ever fill. I think probably the closest thing he came to filling it is right now. He got his life right with Kiki, his wife. But, the loss of his mother was a hole he couldn't fill. The relationship with his father. I think that the idea, the way that this fame was constructed, the way he was built as a fighter is still relevant today. He drew 108 million people saw him live stream with Jake Paul. Jake Paul's a pretty good promoter, but he could have only done that number with Tyson. The question is why? Why are we addicted to him? Why did he come back? Why was, the third act of a fighter's life is almost inevitably the tragic one. He's disproved everything. So I think you're going to find that he's a human being in this. And a lot of it has to do with excavating his past as an amateur, as a kid. I there are certain things that run through this. One of the first people I spoke to was his brother, his half brother, was running back at Purdue, quit, went off to go find himself. Really bright guy, and you could see certain things like that run through the Tyson family. First, the guy was a great athlete. Second of all, he was really, really bright, and he was searching. And I think that was that's not unlike Tyson. The other element to it, I think that there'll never be another fighter that comes up like this. He had literary cachet before he had street cred. All the writers, some of them great, some of them were like my rabbis, my teachers, guys like Pete Hamill, were so in love with Customato that this fable, Cuss and the Kid, that Customato, his original trainer, took him out of a juvenile detention and saved him. I think that there's something to that deserves more nuance, that deserves to be looked at again. Go on.
What do you believe, or when do you believe that Tyson, in your eyes, what was the point when we talk about him being humanized per se? He talked about needing to be animalistic, needing to be the kind of individual that he needed to be in order to be a boxing champion in the heavyweight division. When do you decide you know, where his humanity is being shown. Where do you think it hit? And does the book reveal that? Was it the whole Robin Givens affair? Was it having to deal with Don King? Was it the fact that he looked at his own mortality, particularly in the aftermath of losing to Evander Holyfield and biting Evander Holyfield's ear? What was the defining moment for the transformation, per se, that you believe is in Mike Tyson's head, where he reached the point where he said, yo, I can't be this person anymore. I need to be better.
I think, and look, this book is the first of 2 volumes. This ends with the Spinks fight. But I think the Reformation, you know, the final blows came with losing a daughter, marrying Kiki, and getting sober. But you talk about, you know, he talks about wanting and needing to be an animal. His words, not mine. But the irony is
Yes.
that Customato was, and this is why I think the history needs to be re-examined. Customato was famous for almost a theology of the bully. How do you beat a bully? When Ali was fighting Foreman, he consulted with Customato, and it was D'Amato who said, you run across the ring and you smack him in the mouth, hit him with the right hand. Okay. The irony is that Cuss, whether by design or it just happened, Cuss raised Mike to be a bully. There's never been a guy that was that scared, scary. I mean, he was scared too, but the way that he used the fear to inflict on other fighters. There's a passage in the book, there's a matchmaker, pretty good matchmaker named Ron Katz. And he remembers early in his career, he'd have to push guys out of the dressing room in order to fight Tyson. So somewhere along the line, I mean, Customato was famous for making Floyd Patterson the youngest heavyweight champion until Mike Tyson. No one wanted anything to do with Sonny Liston, but somehow Mike became the Sonny Liston. And somehow the way I think people wanted a Sonny Liston at that time, the rules changed. The other thing with Cuss, let me just, if I could, one more thing about Cuss. And this Mike pushed back on this with me. When I said, hey, maybe it's not like the smartest thing in the world to take a kid who's been in and out of spa, right? And put him under hypnosis and tell him you're going to be a scourge from God. I go, maybe that's not like the way to do it. And I said, to me, what Cuss was asking you to do was make him live forever. It was a Faustian bargain, make the coach immortal. And you know, I think he credits Cuss with saving him and certainly getting him. He goes, well, didn't I? Didn't I make him immortal? And yes, he did. My question is, at what price?
At what price? And that's a very legitimate question, because I got to ask you this. First of all, did Mike Tyson authorize this book? So he did not.
I don't do it like that. I mean, we spoke a couple times to get some ground rules. He was not
right.
To me, he was very generous. You know, never been antagonistic. And you know, when people typically, what would happen is people call. Let me see if it's okay. I said, go call Kiki. She'll tell you if it's cool or not. And most of the time, it was yes. We have the same agent as it happens. Okay. But anyway, that to answer your question, no. But he was give me everything I needed.
But that's what I'm wondering. So if he's giving you everything that you needed to write the book on him, why wouldn't he authorize it?
I mean, I don't want to be in business with him. I mean, I've never asked anyone. In other words, like for instance, I want to do a book about Joe Namath. And I understand, like Joe thought of it in his world as a licensing deal. He wanted money. I don't want to be in business. Maravich had passed away. Mancini cooperated fully. I had no expectation that Mike Tyson is going to retell his life, you know, for Mark Kriegel for free. I just was like, hey, let me do what I got to do, and he was okay. And that was more than I could have ever asked.
Totally understand. Totally understand. Did Mike Tyson ever speak about the Michael Spinks fight? Because if you remember, I know you remember this, I remember this, that I believe it was Butch Lewis, the late promoter, got arrested, so I think it was him. Spinks was in the locker room crying because he had to come out and fight Mike Tyson. But Mike didn't know that, and he was punching walls because he thought that Spinks was, using it as a delay tactic when, in fact, Spinks was scared to death. Did Mike Tyson ever talk about that at all?
No. It ends on that. That's a pretty well-known incident, but he does put his hand through the wall, waiting. But there was a controversy because Butch Lewis started some stuff, thought he would get in Mike's head. Okay. And
right.
Butch Lewis comes back there and says, retape. He wants him to retape. He goes, I ain't retaping anything. I'm God. And it gets into a whole thing with the New Jersey Athletic Commission. Yeah, there were reports that Spinks was scared. By the way, Spinks was like no chump. Spinks was a great, courageous fighter. It was only
Mark, you're talking to me. You're talking to me, Mark. Spinks was a light heavyweight that moved up. He wasn't a natural heavyweight. Come on, Mike.
No, he wasn't. But hold up. But here's the thing. Eddie Futch had a plan. Mike fades after 6 rounds. Stick and move. You have to be disciplined. And Butch Lewis, the genius that he was, goes right across and tells Michael, listen, man, forget that, man. You got to get your respect immediately. And that's what Spinks does. And that was, look, it was only a matter of time anyway. But Spinks runs across, tries to throw a right hand, and he just gets smoked. Because he went to engage immediately. He listened. Instead of listening to Eddie Futch, he might have had a shot for a little bit.
Look, Mark Kriegel, I got to get my glasses because I don't see what the hell you saying in that regard. I didn't see Spink walk over to the ring and try to engage Mike. He looked scared from opening tap. He wasn't on his bicycle, but I'll be damned if he tried to engage with Mike Tyson. Come on now. I didn't see that.
I'm not saying he wasn't scared. But he does go to engage him, and he try even when he tries to get up, he comes right back after him. And he's throwing the right hand when he receives the coup de grace.
Got you. Last question for you because I got to get ready to go. And I can't wait to see this. I can't wait to read this book. I'm going to ask you this question. Mm-hmm. In the end, who is Mike Tyson today? And is he happy?
Happier than he's ever been. And for the first time in his life, he's loved. That's not anything that I could have imagined. And I think like the great victory, and this is where people like I had been, his consistent, detractors or haters, and people who adored him, and even Mike himself could agree on, he was never supposed to be long for this world. His doom was like, that was the safest bet. If you were going to bet Mike Tyson's life expectancy, you were going to bet the under. And here he is, he's beloved. And I think that's really the beauty of the story, and it's a destination that, no one I know could have imagined.
Wow. Mark Kriegel, The Baddest Man, The Making of Mike Tyson, is out tomorrow, June 3rd, wherever you buy your books. Mark Kriegel, it's good to see you, man. It's been a long time, man. Happy to see you, buddy. You take it easy, all right? All right. One and only Mark Kriegel right here with Stephen A. Coming up, 50 Cent, 50, says there's no way in hell Donald Trump should issue a pardon for Sean Diddy Combs if convicted in his federal sex trafficking and racketeering trial. All that and more coming up next. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show. Don't go away. Welcome back. Now let's get to the latest on Sean Diddy Combs' federal sex trafficking and racketeering trial. A former assistant testifying under the pseudonym Mia was back on the stand facing cross-examination for Combs' defense team. Meanwhile, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson spoke out this weekend about the trial and any potential pardon Combs could receive from President Trump. 50 went to social media following these comments from President Trump last Friday when asked about Diddy and the trial. Take a listen, please.
Back when you hosted The Apprentice, you mentioned once in 2012 that Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think some people have been very close to asking. First of all, I'd look at what's happening. and I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, he sort of, that relationship busted up from what I read. I don't know. He didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden. You know, it's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So I can't, it's not a popularity contest. So I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
Now, here's what 50 posted on Instagram this week, and after those comments, quote, Donald doesn't take well to disrespect and doesn't forget who chooses to go against him. While working tirelessly to make America great again, there is no room for distraction. He would consider pardoning anyone who was being mistreated, not Diddy. Combs said some really bad things about Trump. It's not okay. I'm going to reach out so he knows how I feel about this guy, end quote. First of all, let me say this, because I love me some 50 Cent. I love what he's doing. I love what he's doing on Stars, Power, you know, the sequels, Power Book Ghost, which is my favorite, Power Book Force with Joseph Sikora, plays Tommy Egan. I love that. I love Raising Canaan. You saw what I had, you know, you saw I had the star Patina Miller's on the show. She's phenomenal. I love that show. I love everything that 50 Cent is doing. Even though he's still, I'm sure he's going to still make some music or whatever, but I just think he's phenomenal. I think he's phenomenal as executive producer. I think he's an incredible talent, and I think he is the kind of person you do not want against you, because this brother will troll you forever. I mean, he will hit you where it hurts. Ain't no doubt about that. And he clearly has no love for Diddy. My whole point is Trump's willingness to pardon Diddy, potentially, whatever 50 Cent feels, it shouldn't be based on whether Trump, what Diddy has said about Trump. It should be based on whether Trump thinks the charges against him are excessive, the crime that he's being accused of, if he were to be committed of those federal crimes, how valid they are, and whether or not that time served comes into consideration. That clearly is not going to be the case. I mean, if it's one of those situations where President Trump ended up pardoning P. Diddy. P. Diddy's on trial now. He hasn't been convicted yet. He's been in jail for a few months. But with some of the things that he's been accused of, sex trafficking and racketeering, as the government continues to make its case, we got to hear what the defense has to say in response to those allegations, those charges, those assertions that the prosecution has made against him. Ultimately, if you want to look at him right now, clearly he's an individual that nobody wants to have anything to do with. When you consider the video and how it revealed how he was physically abusing his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, when you hear the assistant give her testimony, when you hear the things that folks have alluded to, when you hear about the details about what he coaxed Cassie Ventura into doing, these are very heinous, disgusting things, to say the least. I'm not going to even go into detail. They're heinous and disgusting. You know, and so when you look at it from that standpoint, you know, why are you thinking about pardoning him before he's even been convicted? Let him get convicted, and if he gets convicted, let him spend some time in jail, and then after that, if you want to consider pardoning him, your decision should be based on that, not on whether or not he has said nasty things about the president. So, and 50 Cent, I would just like to know for 50 Cent specifically what the beef is with Diddy, whatever that may be. I don't know. I don't follow it like that. He does not like this man. He feels whatever it is that he feels about Diddy. This is not my lane, ladies and gentlemen. I don't follow the hip-hop. I like my music. I like listening to hip-hop, but I don't follow the storylines that come associated. I know nothing of the history between 50 Cent and Diddy. But Diddy has me wanting to find out. 50 Cent has me wanting to find out what that history is. Because most people would just not say anything. You understand? If Trump says what he says, all right, no matter what their feelings are, they ain't going to get involved. 50 Cent don't give a damn. He don't give a damn. He literally is saying he's going to reach out to Trump to remind Trump of the things that P. Diddy has said about him for the sole express purposes of making sure that Trump doesn't pardon Diddy in the event that Diddy gets convicted of sex trafficking and racketeering. That's what 50 Cent has sworn to do. And I got to admit to you, that's wild. Damn, you know you got an enemy there when the man want to go out of his way to contact the president, you know, and clearly he has some kind of inroads where he can get to President Trump so President Trump can hear him. He's basically saying, yo, brother need to go down. Brother need to go down and stay down. That's what he's saying. So if Diddy didn't have enough problems, having 50 Cent on your ass is a problem. That's a problem. That's the only thing I can peel from it at this moment in time. I would love for 50 Cent to tell us what exactly is his disgust with Diddy, other than the disgust we all feel from the videos we already saw. It would be real interesting to see that. I'm just saying. That's it for this edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Hope y'all enjoyed it. I know I did. I'll be back at you in a couple of days as I get set to cover the NBA Finals. It's going to be a doozy. At least I hope it will be. I hope it goes 6 or 7 games. I hope it's no sweep. I hope it's no gentleman sweep of 5 games. I hope it's a real series. But Indiana's going to have to show up in order for that to take place. Until then, thanks again to my man Big Perk, Kendrick Perkins, for coming on the show. And thanks again for Mark Kriegel to coming on the show as well. I will be back with y'all in a couple of days. Same bad time, same bad channel. Until then, peace and love, everybody. God bless.